Good evening slash afternoon. Good early evening, folks. And tonight we're gonna talk about the history of Lancaster Fire Department and Lancaster Ohio Fire Department. That is, obviously, we know. Thank you for your service for the past and current and future of Lancaster and retired personnel that have ever served in Lancaster. I know quite a few who currently serve in the Lancaster Fire Department. Well, at one time, there was a building that once stood right beside the Lancaster Fire Department. That's no longer there. Supposedly. I can't remember. But in 1882, that was in 1867. But in 1882, the Lancaster Fire Department was officially established. But in 1897, the Lancaster Fire Department was officially had an architect from Columbus by the name of M.C. Thompson, who drew up a drawing to create a state-of-the-art firehouse that is currently installed today, that we have to this date, that is still standing to this day. If you actually see the tower over by where it had two bays where it had housed two horses. There were two horse-drawn, and they were horse-drawn bays, and they were horse-drawn, and they would pull horses out, and it was a state-of-the-art type of firehouse. This firehouse was a very unique type of firehouse, and it was placed in a great location, and to this day, it is actually debatable about where they would even move a new firehouse to, considering they say it is not an ideal type of firehouse anymore. It doesn't hold to the same standard as what any new firehouse would be. But literally, it's even if they do not take it down anymore, and it's not be used as a firehouse anymore, they can use it as a firehouse museum. I've been inside that firehouse before, and it is a nice firehouse. It's one of the oldest firehouses here in the state of Ohio, and if you like visiting old firehouses that are still active, I suggest you go to this one at 254 East Chestnut Street in Lancaster. It's beautiful. You ought to look it up. It's one of the most beautiful firehouses that you can find here in Lancaster, Ohio. And obviously you know what it's like. I mean, then several years later, then in 1898, after Thompson gave the drawings, after he drew up the plans, he gave the drawings to the city council in 1897. Then, this was in October of 1897, he gave the drawings, he proposed the drawing to the council, to city council, and city council accepted the drawing. In 1898, they started fixing the firehouse. They were done by late 1898, and then by 1899, the firehouse was operational. And they took their first run out of there in June, and I can't remember what the date was, but it was in 1899. And they've been taking runs out of that firehouse since 1899. And not a single run day has gone by. And back then, obviously, in 1962, they didn't have phones then, and even when they did start having phones, they only had pole stations until 1962 when 911 was invented, and they just had pole stations. And that's when the 911 system started coming out, was in 62. So instead of using pole stations to summon emergencies, they would use a phone to dial 911 for that. And that's when our great system started working better. So instead of using a pole station to summon an emergency for like a structure fire or just a fire alarm for that matter, they could actually just dial 911, say, hey, I'm at this address, and lo and behold, they could get there quicker and know right where to go. Even on the map inside the firehouse, it shows where all the pull stations are. It's so unique. But several years right before that even occurred, in 1955, they built a second firehouse. Almost like a substation, so they could... But in 1916, before I put that down, just several years after the horse-drawn carriages were done, they built a bay. They built, not necessarily, they built a bay. They created... In 1916, shortly right after, in the middle of World War I, they had vehicles. They came out with the first vehicles, and they were Seagraves, and 2-engine Seagraves. And then they extended their fleet to create, obviously, more. To create more, obviously they're running out of room in Station 1, so they added on. And that's why the firehouse is the way it is today. In 1955, they added Station 2. 12 years later, in 1967, they added Station 3, which is still standing to this day. And that's something to think about here. And the hose and the big tower at Station 1, and this is something to remember about if you ever think about planning on making a visit to Station 1. The big old tower that hangs up there is where they hung the hose after every fire. They would hang their hose there to let it dry. Nowadays tactics, they take the hose off their fire trucks and sit them on the ground and let it dry that way. And we'll put a brand new hose on the truck. That's what nowadays tactics are used as. If you think about that for a minute, you would know where I come from. I mean, that's literally what they do nowadays. So, that's literally what it's like in some areas. I'm just speaking by what I know from other fire departments that do what they do and how Lancaster did it back in the good old days. You would hang the hose up from a tower and let it dry. Obviously, the hose is not made from the same material as what it is made from today, and I can't remember what the name of that material is, so I deeply apologize. But it's obviously flame retardant, because if it went into a fire like it is now, it would catch fire. But things are significantly different unlike they were then, so if you like the way things were, I mean, great. Just go there and look. So, with that being said, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications. With that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.